Hello, everybody, and welcome to my tutorial on using Google Forms to create a quiz for your classroom. So I'll make this video assuming that you've never used Google Forms before and just take you from the very beginning. So the first thing you'll want to do is go into your Google Drive to the folder where you know you want your quiz to land. And you come up to the plus button right here to create a new document. You click New, and you find where it says Google Forms. Now, if for some reason you don't see it on this list, hover over the More section, and then you can find it in here. For me, it shows up because I use it frequently, so I will click on it now. Now, just to get you started, I want to help you out with setting up your forms. So let's start off with as simple as using a title. And just like everything on Google, they want to make this as easy as possible. So we're going to call this Sample Quiz, and you'll see that title shows up in both places. Okay, the next step is just to convert it to a quiz. Right now, it's basically just polling people. It's asking them questions for your information, but Google has a great setting where you can turn this into a quiz and collect answers. So a few settings that I like to use. First of all, I always collect email addresses. This way, if something goes wrong, then I'll know which student submitted which quiz just by having their email address included. The next step is to limit to one response. This only allows, Google Forms will only auto-grade the quiz if you limit to one response. Now, there are multiple options you can check through that I'd recommend you read. The next thing, I like to give my students a progress bar just so they can see on a difficult quiz or a long quiz how much they have left before they're finished. And then finally, we can shuffle question order. It makes cheating far more difficult for people because instead of being able to look on their person's screen around them, the questions are all in a different order for them. Okay, so finally, the most important part, click on quizzes over here and now make this a quiz. By making this a quiz, we can now put correct answers versus incorrect answers, and then we can allow auto grading and assign point values to each question. So I made it a quiz. I want my students to wait to receive their scores on this, so that way I can grade any short answer or paragraph questions they had. I don't want them to see the missed questions or the correct answers at this point, because I don't want them to share those answers with someone in a later period. So once we have our settings done, we click Save, and now we can jump right into creating our questions. So there are multiple question types. I'll walk you through the most relevant for creating a quiz. And the first one is just multiple choice. So you can type in your question. For me, we'll keep it simple. What is the correct answer? And you can type in a series of answers. This is gibberish, but you get the idea here. A series of answers based on what might be correct or incorrect. Now, the way to select which answer is correct, you go to Answer Key, you select the correct answer. Let's be honest, it's always C. And then you add the point value for that question. Maybe I want this to be worth 1 point because they only had one answer. I click Done. Now, a really important thing, make sure you click on this switch that says Required. It should light up in purple. That way you know that each student has to put an answer to that question before they submit their response. So that was multiple choice. To switch between other question types, you click on this drop-down menu and you just choose the most relevant ones. So we chose multiple choice. I want to show you a checkbox question as well. What is the correct answer? You would use this if you have more than one correct answer to your question. So again, we'll type some gibberish here just to give you the idea. Maybe I have 6 potential options. I go to my answer key and I select of the 6, which of these were correct. And then I select the point value. Maybe I want my students to get a point for each one they selected and for each one they omitted, making it worth 6 points. 2 other question types that are typically relevant for a quiz are to come up here. I prefer most of the time to give my students more short answer and paragraph form questions. On the short answer text, it just tells them that they won't need a lot of information. I might further prompt my students, answer in 1 to 2 sentences. This way, they're not digging through and trying to write a 3-paragraph answer to a 2-sentence question. Of course, I'll make it required. And then lastly, on this list of question types I want to show you is paragraph form. This might be the exact same thing, but it gives them the idea that this is a long answer text rather than a short answer text. So again, I might further prompt my students by telling them answer in 3 to 5 sentences. I'll make it a required question. And those are our 4 question types. Okay, so last thing I want to do with this tutorial is show you how to view responses. So once you've created your quiz and you're happy with it, you send it out to your students, they take it, it's all said and done. You come over here within your form to responses, and it'll give you a list either by the question or by the individual student who took the quiz of all of their answers to the questions. The beauty of this is if you want this in data form where you can compare the answers they gave to different questions or see if you can find any trends, just click on this little green icon. This is to create a spreadsheet in Google Sheets. So I'll click Create Spreadsheet. It'll give me my title, responses. And once I create, here's the beauty of this. If we wait for it to load, you can see it tells exactly what time they submitted their quiz, and then the answer to every question that they answered, including the score that they actually got on the quiz. Now, this lets me look, maybe I want to find out what percentage of my students got number 1 correct compared to number 2 correct. I can look at that, I can graph it and see how well the concepts and their understanding correlated with understanding a different topic. Google Forms gives you this great option. If your students as a whole got less than 50% on one specific question, so less than half your students got it correct, Google will alert you to that, so you can go back and check that question for validity. Maybe you can decide to count the question because they just messed up, or maybe you say, hey, this was worded funny, or a lot of students were absent that day, or there were struggles that they might have faced that for some reason were not addressed during class. You have the complete option as the teacher to do that. Okay, so last thing I want to tell you about Google Forms, if you made sure to select your answers correctly, to select your settings correctly, you can auto grade this quiz right away. So it goes directly into your gradebook in Google Classroom, and that's the last time you have to see it. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I will see you in the next one.